Welcome to Quality Branding Hub. The channel is for the quality control engineer, site engineer, and the civil engineer who are working in the construction field. In this channel, we are dealing with anything and everything which is required to get success in the construction. Now, what is the today's topics? Today's topics is very much important and essential topics for the construction. Now, all we know that we need to do the grout. Now, what type of grout or where to use, and in today's video I will discuss each and everything about the grout, or especially about the cementitious grout and as well as the epoxy grout. So stay tuned until then to get the full information. And if you are new in my channel, kindly subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that whenever I upload a new video you will get immediate notifications. Now let's start into the subject, that is cementitious grout as well as the epoxy grout. Now, as a civil engineer, are you confused about which grout to use in your construction projects? Whether you are a civil engineer, quality inspector, or contractor, understanding the difference between epoxy grout and cementitious grout can save your time, cost, and major quality issues down the line. Now, these are the things you need to compromise about or you need to fulfill into the project, that is a cost, time, and the quality. So if you are confused about which grout to use, these three things will be a problems. So now first, one by one, I will discuss about what is grout, what are the types of grout, especially epoxy and cementitious grout, IS code preference, practical applications, pros and cons, and which one you should choose for your project. So start first with, we need to know what is grout. Now grout is a filler material in construction to fill voids and seal joints, commonly between tiles under base plates or around anchor bolts. Now in construction, all we know that whenever we are making tiles, there is a joint in between this joint, that's called the, sometimes it's a paper joint or the butt joint, whatever the joint is there. Now this joint has to fill. Now if you want to know about details, tiles joint, I have made a detailed video, link is in the description, please check, you will get the full information. Now this joint, if we are not treated properly, what will happen, the water will penetrate inside the base and it will destroy the base. So now we need to treat this joint, or treat this joint is a watertight. Now what you need to do is you can fill the material with the grout material, or sometimes under the base plate. On the concrete base you are erected a structure, and in between the base plate and the concrete surface there is a gap. If we are not fill this one, again there will be a problem of load transferring as well as the structural durability. So in that case also we need to fill the voids, and that is called the grout. Now why grout is required? It provides mechanical strength, water resistance, and surface finish. So there are mainly two types of grout. One is cementitious grout based on cement, and another is epoxy grout based on epoxy resins. Each one has a specific role depending on the environment, load, and the durability requirements. Now what is cementitious grout? Now cementitious grout is the traditional grout. Why I'm saying it is a traditional grout? Because it is used by the mix of cement, sand, and water, and sometimes with plasticizer or additive. It is the primary construction material for the construction, and it is easily available. That is why I am saying it is a traditional one, because it is used widely in the industry. Now where you can use this joint, used in tile joints, general void fillings, or repair in dry or mildly wet areas. And it is affordable, easy to use, and available everywhere, and it's a budget friendly, it is affordable. So that is why it is the number one choice for the grout. And was the IS code preference, that is the IS 4031 for the testing of cement, IS 650 standard sand, 12330 for sulfate resistant Portland cement, and IS 456. That are all need to follow whatever the code for the concrete, that need to follow for the cementitious grout as well. Now here is a catch. What this catch is, it's a porous, can absorb moistures, and may crack over time, so not ideal for industrial or chemical prone environments. Now see, these are the drawback for the standard cementitious grout. But what is the solution? That solution is the epoxy grout. So what is epoxy grout? Epoxy grout, this is the modern high performance option. So it is made of epoxy resin, hardener and the filler powder. So this grout has the three component materials: the epoxy resin, hardener and the filler powder. Now if you want to know in details about the epoxy resin, hardener and the filler powder, I have made a detailed video. Link is in the description. Please check, you will get the full information. Now what is this? It's like using steel instead of bamboo. So the cementitious grout, if you are comparing the bamboo, then the cementitious epoxy grout is like a steel. The big that big of a jump on the performance. So performance wise, it's the ultimate one. So where we can use this epoxy grout? In the commercial kitchens, hospitals and laboratories, and heavy duty floors, under machineries and the anchor bolts. Now what is the IS code preference? IS 919 for the epoxy resin, IS 12994 for epoxy resin systems for civil use. And now what is the advantage? Yes, there is a lot of advantage for the epoxy grout. So first is waterproof, stain resistance, chemical and acid resistance, and no shrinkage and no cracking. Now these are the things which we are not getting in the cementitious grout. So what is happening? If we are using the cementitious grout, where waterproof is required, stain resistance is required, chemical and acid resistance is required, and there will be no shrinkage and no cracking. So in that case, we have the option for the epoxy grout. So whenever your criteria or your requirement is all that, go for the epoxy grout. But it comes with a cost. Literally, it's a more expensive and needs a skill level. It is the drawback for the epoxy grout. Now the next part is, what is the comparison in between epoxy and the cementitious grout. Now the base material, and the base material, the cementitious grout is the cement base, and the epoxy is the epoxy resin and the hardener. So these are the clear difference of the base material. Now what the water resistance capacity? For the cementitious grout is the low, but in the epoxy grout is the very high or the excellent water resistance capacity. So not the cementitious grout is bad or not the epoxy grout is very good, but both has their own limitations and both has their own area of use. So if your area is demanding water resistance, go for the epoxy grout. If it is not required, go for the cementitious grout. Now the chemical resistance, the cementitious grout has the poor chemical resistance capacity, but in the case of epoxy grout, it has the excellent chemical resistance capacity. So where the chemical in the use in the floor or in other area, go for the epoxy grout. Now cost, the cementitious grout cost is low and epoxy grout is high, but it has the more advantage, or it gives your structure more durable than the cementitious grout. And the application is that the cementitious grout easy to apply, it's not required any skilled labor. But the epoxy grout, it needs the skilled labor, because you need to add the epoxy resin, you need to mix that one, you need to fill for that, because it's a special type of material, and for that you need the special type of labor or the skilled labor. And the shrinkage, in the cementitious grout, shrinkage is possible because it is a cementitious one, and the cement, there is a shrinkage, always can be a shrinkage. That is why you are using the non-shrink grout. So there will be no volume shrink when it is set. But if it is the volume shrink, if they set, then the stress will generate again, there will be a problem for the structural stability. But for the cementitious grout, there is always possibility there will be a shrinkage, but in the epoxy it's negligible. And typical use already I discussed, this is tiles, cracks in the areas, and epoxy grout is hospital and the industries. This combination help us to choose the right grout for the right purpose. No compromise on durability. So this table you should remember whenever you are selecting the grout for your projects. See, if you need water resistance is very low, go for the cementitious grout. And but if the chemical resistance is required excellent, go for the epoxy grout. So according to your requirement and according to your project specification or project requirement, you need to choose which type of grout you need to use. Now Here you can see the cementitious grout being applied between bathroom tile. Easy to clean, quick set, but water may seep over time. But maximum times if you are using in the water resistance area, it can prone to water ingress. But in the applied in the food processing plant, now in the food processing plant, this is a critical water resistance and chemical protection is required. So in the food processing plant, you cannot use the cementitious grout. You have to go for the epoxy grout. There is no other choice. And this why where you are using, that is important, and where you want to use, what is the intended purpose of use. According to that, you need to choose the grout for your projects. If for the food processing plant, if you go for the normal cementitious grout, it will be a disaster because the water resistance and the chemical protection will be in a problem, and after sometimes the floor will be damaged. So epoxy grout is ideal for grouting bolt and machinery foundations, especially in power plant, refineries and pharma units. So why? Because these are all the chemical prone area, water resistance required, so you need to go for the epoxy grout. Now, I have you may have some questions in your mind, but I have given some questions, that is, can I use epoxy grout in bathroom, especially in shower areas? Yes, but no water penetration. So in the bathroom area, especially in the shower area, go for the epoxy grout, then there will be no water penetration. Now the next question is epoxy grout worth in the high cost? Absolutely. It if used in the chemical zones, wet zones or high eco end finishes, go for the epoxy, but it is a high cost. Does cement grout need curing? Yes, minimum 7 days for the structural integrity, or as per IS 456, whatever the mentioned minimum period of curing that you need to follow. Now, what safety precaution for epoxy grout? Use gloves, mask, and goggles, and follow MSDS. What is MSDS? Material Safety Data Sheet. In the Material Safety Data Sheet, it has clearly mentioned how you can operate this epoxy resin hardener or the filler material, because it's a harmful. If it is go inside your body, it can causes damage your body. So you need to first find out what is the written in the MSDS, and accordingly you need to do the grouting option. So these are about this, but in summarize, use cementitious grout when budget is tight, environment is dry, and application is basic. But use epoxy grout when you need water chemical resistance, but that means water resistance, chemical resistance, it's a critical zone. You want long-term durability, go for the epoxy grout. So these are all about the grout, that is cementitious grout and the epoxy grout. I hope this video is clarified your doubts. If you want more video like this, I have make more video on this. Go for the description, I have given the links. And if you want to know anything more about quality control and construction, please let me know. I will come with more content like this, and I'm waiting for your valuable comment. For your valuable comment, everybody will be benefited. And if you find it useful, kindly subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon, so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get